JC, welcome to our picks for week 20 in the Canadian Football League. I went 2-2 last week. I got the Elks covering the spread. I did pick them to lose that game, however. I was incorrect. That said, I correctly picked the Riders to win, though the Argos ended up covering there. I thought the Riders were going to blast a pretty young Argos team. That did not happen. Regardless, 2-2 at this point of the season, I guess we'll take it. I'm just hoping to finish better than that in week 20.
I was also 2-2 last week, Hodge, because I thought the Hamilton Tiger Cats were going to blow the doors off the Calgary Stampeders, and they did not. I also picked the Ottawa Redblacks to cover against the Montreal Alouettes, which they certainly did not. So we are both mired in mediocrity currently. We need to drag ourselves out of this slump.
I did correctly pick the Alouettes to cover that giant spread. It's Thanksgiving after all. If you don't have a big appetite to gobble up those points on Thanksgiving, when will you have it? And the Alouettes did it quite effortlessly, winning that game by 20 points. And obviously, those two teams are set to meet again this week in Ottawa. So let's waste no time, JC. Let's get right into it. Starting with game number 1.
The Winnipeg Blue Bombers are 7-point home favorites over the Saskatchewan Roughriders on Friday night because the Green and White are sending their B team to Princess Auto Stadium. AJ Ouellette, Keyshawn Johnson, Samuel Emilus, Jamarcus Hardrick, Micah Johnson, and Marcus Sales are among those who will not dress, while Trevor Harris, Keon Schaefer-Baker, and Logan Ferlin have been listed as backups. Meanwhile, Nick Dembski will not dress for Winnipeg, being replaced in the starting lineup by Gavin Cobb. Can the Blue Bombers take advantage of a backup-laden Riders team, or Saskatchewan play spoiler?
The Bombers have to win this game. And honestly, I think they have to cover the spread too. I'm picking them to do both those things. And if they don't, honestly, JC, they should just pack it in. If they don't win this game, they're not only not getting back to the Grey Cup for a 6th straight year, but I don't even see a point in them going to the playoffs. This Riders team is obviously a good team. They're 12-4, but for all the reasons you listed, they are resting everybody of consequence this week who's got any type of injury. And they're also resting a lot of their players of consequence who are healthy. I'm not saying there's no good players who are dressing. Obviously, Mike Rose is still dressing, and a bunch of guys who are really talented. Jameer Thurman in the middle, AJ Allen, who's had a great season at weak side linebacker. There's lots of good players still dressing. But when you're sitting, I would argue 12 of your 20 best players, and you go on the road, the home team has to win here. So I'm taking the Bombers to win and cover. I do think Nick Dembski being out is a problem for the blue and gold. That being said, Carrick Wheatfall is coming back, replacing Dylan Mitchell, who Zach Collaros has had seemingly no interest in throwing the ball to for pretty much the entire season, including last week when Mitchell, I think, was targeted one time, even when Dembski was out for the entire second half. So I don't expect Gavin Cobb to come in and have a huge game in place of Dembski, but that one player being out does not dissuade me from taking the Bombers here. A win is not enough to clinch a playoff game for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, but a win, they've already got a good chance of finishing in the playoffs. It changes that from being a good chance to a fantastic chance. So give me the Blue Bombers. This is a must win against a hamstrung Riders team. If you can't win this game, you may as well call it curtains on 2025.
I'll be honest with you, Hodge. There is absolutely nothing right now that excites me about the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. We've been there. We've done that. They're an underwhelming team as opposed to the previous versions that we've seen head into the playoffs and go to 5 straight Grey Cup games. They're just not sexy to me right now. And with all due respect to that Winnipeg franchise, but they can't lose this game. They won't lose this game. It is a game that they have to win, and I think Mike O'Shea's team will pull it out here. I suspect it will be closer than it should be because these Riders have a good culture. I think Corey Mace inspires his players. I think the guys who will be playing who haven't gotten opportunities in the past are going to show up and show out in their limited audition for future years. I think it will be within 10 points. I don't think it will be within 7. So I've got the Bombers winning this game and covering this 7-point spread.
I do think Winnipeg's defense was a lot better last week than it was given credit for. Let's remember the Elks only scored 25 points And 7 of those came on a fluke special teams fumble return by Cordell Jackson, a Johnny on the spot play, and a play that Cody Fajardo attributed to the late owner of the Edmonton Elks, Larry Thompson, saying that Larry reached down from heaven and had that ball take an Elks bounce. I'm not sure I feel the same way, but I love that comment from Cody. Regardless, I mean, this defense, it's got Demario Houston coming back at corner. Between Demario Houston and Jamal Parker, those are the best 2 corners the Bombers have, and they have barely been on the field at the same time this year due to injury or unavailability. So I am taking the Bombers to win and cover here. I don't think Jake Maier is going to be able to move the ball consistently against this team. But to me, this needs to be the type of win the Bombers had against Hamilton just a few weeks ago, and they looked like $1 million and 140-3, right? They need an emphatic victory, something to inspire confidence and give them some momentum heading into the playoffs. Because especially offensively, Zach Collaros' worst game, maybe as a Blue Bomber ever, just is not going to cut it. In the game you're covering, JC, the BC Lions are 6-point home favorites over those Edmonton Elks on Friday night, where they'll look to keep their foot on the gas in an attempt to clinch second place in the West Division. Former most outstanding offensive lineman Dijon Allen will return for the Lions at right tackle following a lengthy injury, while Jarrell Broxton will return at left tackle. Edmonton, meanwhile, is fielding essentially the same lineup it did in last week's win. Can the Lions win and cover the spread, or will Edmonton keep their playoff hopes alive?
This is all Lions in this game. And frankly, the matchup between these two teams has been all Lions for the last several years. The Lions beat up on the Elks. This is as certain as death or taxes. And Nathan Rourke has been an absolute monster against the green and gold throughout his career. I think that continues this week. The Elks defense has been much improved as of late. I think they've found some great pieces for the future, but this is a Lions offense that can essentially put up 30 plus points with its eyes closed and is getting back 2 of the best offensive linemen in the league to help protect Nathan Rourke. I just don't think that the Edmonton offense has the horses to keep pace if the Lions do what they are capable of offensively. I suspect this is going to be a bit lopsided, a bit of a blowout. I'm taking the Lions to win and cover.
Here's a crazy stat, JC. Since July 27th, the BC Lions have been held under 33 points 1 time. And that was in a win over the Toronto Argonauts. Like, this team is putting up points left, right, and center. And I agree with you, JC. A lot of people will say, well, the Elks are a lot better than early in the year when they lost to BC twice. The answer is yes, that is correct. However, let's not forget the Lions were a 3-5 football team after 8 games. 2 of those wins came against the Elks. Like, yes, the Elks are much better than they were early in the year, but so are the BC Lions. And when you hit your 2 top tackles back to protect Nathan Rourke and provide that time he needs to operate what has been the CFL's best offense for the last few months, I don't think this game is going to be close. With all due respect to the Edmonton Elks, they've been the best story in the CFL. The problem for them is the BC Lions right now are the best team in the CFL. And so I don't see this game being particularly close. The Elks do need it in order to have any chance of making the playoffs, and I just don't see that happening. Obviously, the Elks have played well as of late. It's hard not picking them to cover, JC, because the Elks have covered the spread in 10 of their last 11 games. So maybe there's an argument to be made picking them to cover on the road here. Not a very long road trip, Edmonton to Vancouver. But regardless, I just think the Cinderella story is hitting midnight. I think that the carriage is turning into a pumpkin here. The BC Lions, too much firepower. And I'm sorry, the Elks are not built for a track meet. Cody Fajardo said it himself this week. They are built for playoff football. They protect the ball, they protect the quarterback, and they don't turn the ball over. They run the ball well, right? These are all things that really help on the prairies when it's cold. It doesn't much help when you're in a track meet in a dome against a team that never scores under 33 points. Like, I just don't see the Elks being able to keep up with that type of action. They haven't scored 33 points, JC, and I've got my notes here. My goodness, since week 5 The Elks have not
Oof.
scored 33 points in a game or more since week 5. Like, that is not a recipe. Unless Nathan Rourke has his worst day, I do not see the Elks winning this game, and I don't see them covering the spread. Give me the Lions to win and cover at home.
The Ottawa Redblacks are 9-point home underdogs to the Montreal Alouettes on Saturday afternoon, where they've got nothing to play for after being eliminated from postseason contention a couple of weeks ago. Tyree Adams could reportedly start at quarterback with Dustin Crum battling a head injury, though that remains unconfirmed at the time of this recording. Montreal, meanwhile, can still finish first in the East Division. The Alouettes just crushed Ottawa 30-10 on Thanksgiving. Can they make it 2 in a row in head-to-head wins this weekend in the nation's capital?
Yes, and do we have to talk about this game that much longer? I mean, the Alouettes need this game to have any chance of finishing first. I don't think they will, because the Redblacks are playing against Hamilton next week. The Tiger Cats currently on a bye, by the way. But regardless, I just think this Alouettes team is a juggernaut at this point. The intensity, the competitiveness that Davis Alexander has burning in his belly right now is unbelievable. And I think that this team, I mean, defensively has been great pretty much all season. I love the way that they're able to get after the passer by committee. 5, 6, 7 different guys on that defense are capable of getting after the passer consistently. And offensively, things are clicking in a way that they just didn't for most of the year with Davis Alexander out of the lineup. And I think that's opened up things in the run game. I think that's opened up all kinds of options for this Alouettes team that right now, if it's not the, if BC's not the best team in the CFL, then Montreal is. So give me the Alouettes to win. The 9 points on the road does not scare me. Tyree Adams won his lone start, but that was almost 2 calendar years ago, JC. Like, this is going to be a rusty quarterback coming off a major knee injury. I think that probably means he's good for a couple of turnovers, and it's only going to take a couple of turnovers for this game to potentially get out of hand. So call me a glutton for the points, but I'm taking the Redblacks to win the Alouettes to win in Ottawa and cover the spread against the Redblacks.
Hodge, they say that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing twice and expecting a different result. Well, lock me up. Send me to the loony bin. Because after I took the Redblacks to cover last week on a 13.5-point spread, and they let me down tremendously, I'm picking them to cover yet. Now, I'm not picking them to win. The Alouettes are a much better team here. They need this victory. They will find a way to get it done. But they didn't look that good last week, Hodge. Like, the 30-10 victory from the Alouettes, I thought was sort of a sleepwalking performance for them. And against the same opponent 2 times in a row, against an opponent that, quite frankly, you'd be justified in taking lightly considering how they've played and how they've performed as of late, I think they could get caught napping a little bit here by potentially a QB with something to prove in Tyree Adams, who wants to come out here and show that he should have been the guy all along that they were giving opportunities to, and not Dustin Crum. I thought he looked good in the one start that he won a couple of years ago. I think he's looked good in the preseason action, and I think there's a little something up this guy's sleeve for this game. It won't be enough for the Redblacks, certainly won't save their season. That's done and dusted, but I think it will be enough to get this game within a touchdown, so I'm taking the Redblacks to cover the 9-point spread.
The last game of the week, the Calgary Stampeders are 9-point home favorites over the Toronto Argonauts on Saturday night as they look to keep their hopes of hosting a playoff game alive. The Stampeders snapped a 4-game losing skid with a win over Hamilton last week, though it appears Jalen Philpott and Damon Webb are unlikely to play this week. The Argonauts, meanwhile, will wrap up their season ahead of a Week 21 bye after being eliminated from playoff contention a couple of weeks ago. Can Calgary take advantage of an Argonauts team that's getting ready for the offseason?
Yes. Yes, they can. Look, I think the Stampeders are surprisingly banged up after that get-right game last week. I think I have some concerns about them as a whole. But this Toronto Argonauts team is done for right now. They've checked out. They're heading to the golf course. And I don't think that they're going to be able to give that last breath of life. And really what it comes down to it for me, Hodge, is the line of scrimmage. The Calgary Stampeders defensive line was the talk of the CFL all season. They've been struggling as of late, or at least quiet as of late, but they still have some great players there, right? Clarence Hicks has been tremendous. Jalen Hutchings has been quiet for a few weeks, but we all know what he can do. Lorenzo Malden, if he can play, I think is hungry to try and pump up those statistics with a new team. And the Toronto Argonauts offensive line has exhibited an inability to block a single soul all season long. Like, I would not want to be Jarrett Daggy in this game. And to be frank, Ryan Dinwiddie has talked about potentially getting Tucker Horn or Max Dugan some reps in this final game and getting them an opportunity to show, because it means nothing. He might not have to do that himself, because Daggy might not survive the first half with the way they protect him. So I've got the Stampeders to win and cover this here. Until you improve that offensive line in Toronto, they're going to be in serious trouble, and I think that's the priority for them in the offseason.
I agree, JC. And the Argonauts spent a ton of money on this offensive line. That was not a good investment for 2025. Granted, some of that is injury related, but this was a team that willingly traded away DeJohn Allen, who was one of the best offensive linemen in the league over the last few seasons, and they did not have any type of replacement for him in-house, unfortunately for them. But I do actually have the Argonauts covering. I still think that the Stampeders are going to win, but the reason I've picked the Argonauts to cover is because, first of all, they just covered against a good West Division team last week. And the other difference to me is the Redblacks, I think, know full well there's going to be a new head coach in 2026. The Toronto Argonauts are going to bring back Ryan Dinwiddie unless he ends up getting hired by the Redblacks as a head coach GM, which I don't think is likely, but it's certainly not impossible. This team is competing. These players are competing to impress this same coaching staff. And I think that's a big difference. Yeah, you're always competing hard because it's professional football. You're trying to put good things on film. But this is a potential Hall of Fame head coach, Ryan Dinwiddie, right? 2 Grey Cup wins to his name already through just 5 seasons at the helm with the Argonauts. He's got a Coach of the Year award. Yeah, the season didn't go his way, but he's still going to be fighting tooth and nail. This is his old team. I think he's going to be heavily motivated for that reason, and the players play hard for him. I think in Ottawa, the writing's on the wall. There's going to be a change. In Toronto, there's not going to be. So give me the Calgary Stampeders to win, but the Toronto Argonauts to cover for that reason. This is still a great Toronto Argonauts coaching staff. At the very least, the head coach is certainly great, and I think the players will keep competing hard for Dinwiddie. For JC Abbott, I'm John Hodge. Those are our picks for Week 20 in the Canadian Football League, straight up and against the spread. Don't forget to join us Sunday or Monday, schedule providing, for the latest episode of the 3 Down Podcast with Justin Dunk, myself, and the Cheese. We'll see you then.